Welcome to the X's and Argos scouting report for week 13 of the CFL season. Joining me this week is former CFL quarterback and longtime radio color voice for the BC Lions, Giulio Caravatta. Giulio, thanks so much for joining me and being on the show tonight.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, from the opening half of this season, I have not for the life of me been able to figure out the BC Lions. So I am so excited to have you in here today to talk to me about it, because I just don't know what this team is. It's been such a crazy season from the very opening half until the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think that, I think for the most part too, like we're trying to figure out what the identity is as well, right? Like that's something coming out of training camp that this team, I think, is still searching for a little bit. The one thing I'll say is the BC Lions defensively were very young. They really kind of had an emphasis of trying to get younger, and they did that. You look at the likes of Jordan Williams, who was the number one draft pick, who starts for them at middle linebacker, who's had a fabulous year in the middle. Keontae Harden, who's a rookie halfback, who's played very, very well. Has missed some games with injury, but has been really good. Jalen Edwards-Cooper is another rookie that has really stepped up. And then you look at the defensive line. I think they have 5 first-year defensive linemen to the CFL. Like, these guys have got a couple of years of NFL experience, whether on practice roster and a few games here and there, but they're rookies to the CFL. So there's a lot of youth on that defense. And then you look on the other side, offensively, they got a lot of good pieces, but the inconsistency, I think, is something that's really hurt the Lions. Like, they just losing Lucky Whitehead a few weeks ago has really, really hurt this team. But Brian Burnham and Dominic Grimes is another one that got injured early on, and he's just slowly starting to make his way back. James Butler is a rookie running back. So there's a lot of good young pieces mixed in with some veterans, but offensively, they're still trying to find their way.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to mention Brian Burnham on an Argos podcast after what happened the last time these two teams met, where he caught about 1,000 yards.
Really? Well, I'm sure he's looking forward to that if he can do that again.
Oh, BC went up 55-0 in that game. That was the absolute worst post-game reaction podcast they ever recorded. So it was mostly at the hands of Brian Burnham, just torching the Argos defense. Now, you mentioned the Lucky Whitehead injury. I'm not sure I don't know if I've ever seen an injury to a non-quarterback impact an offense the way this seems to have, because you take that guy off the field and it just looked like a whole different team. These last 3 weeks have been a nightmare for the offense, and getting shut out last week. How does one player make that much difference?
Yeah, that's an excellent point about the non-quarterback and the impact that he had. All I can really say is that, Lucky, since he got here right from day one at training camp, has electrified everybody that's seen him. Like, being able to see him, like, I knew that he was a dynamic returner. I knew that, he was kind of like that jet sweep kind of screen guy that they used in Winnipeg, but I didn't realize how good a route runner and receiver he was. And so, the element of speed and quickness that he brings to the table, really, really, for this offense, he's the kind of guy that when he runs vertically, he's going to take 2 defenders with him. He's going to take his defender, and he's going to take anybody that's covering over the top, because he's that fast. And, for the Argo fans, it would probably best to describe him a little bit like Brandon Banks was in Hamilton. When Brandon was at the top of his game, he was a guy that you had to account for wherever he was in the field. So Lucky was having that kind of an impact with this Lions offense. And, when you have a guy like that who can open up the field, the likes of Brian Burnham and Keon Hatcher and Javon Cotoy and Shaq Johnson, the rest of their receiving cores, it just creates more space. And since he's been gone, that space is really shriveled up. And you really, really noticed it against Winnipeg. Brandon Alexander, their free safety, played coming downhill the entire game, because he was basically saying, listen, if you got someone fast enough to beat us over the top, go ahead and try. But until you do, I'm playing everything in front of me and I'm coming downhill on everything. And he did. So it's had an impact, definitely. And like you say, like psychologically too, like it just, really, really has, it's had a real effect on them. And as you said, like, you don't usually see that kind of an impact unless it's a quarterback. But he's really had a tremendous impact on this offense, and his injury has devastated them.
The Lions offense, just sticking with the Lions offensive side of the ball, the numbers aren't bad this year. And Michael Riley specifically has put up some really nice numbers, and yet they don't seem to be scoring points on the same pace that you would expect when you look at like what Michael Riley's production is. How is it that they're not getting into the end zone? Is it the run game or? Yeah.
And I think what it is too is one of the big questions that everyone's asking out here is the lack of running game, right? And the consistency in the running game. And I think what happens is that, when they start getting closer to the end zone, right? If they don't make it on first down, you get into those second and long situations, the field starts to shrink a little bit. And, they just haven't been able to capitalize. And that again is another big part of their problems, that if they could capitalize on some of those opportunities, they're really going to open the game up for themselves. Instead, settle in for 3, and it allows teams to kind of hang around. And then, when you're playing the way that they're playing right now and running into the Winnipeg Blue Bombers when they did, is really sent them for a loop. And they've really been affected confidence-wise. And, when you get down in those areas of the field where you need to capitalize, I don't have to tell anybody who watches football, those are chances that you have to take advantage of. And they just have not been able to do it. And it's had a huge impact on that offense. They've been able to move the ball, but not when they really need to be able to put it in the end zone and put points on the board.
And I wonder if that is going to play into the hands of this sort of, I guess, Coach Jones' defense. Since he's taken over the Argos defense, it's turned into a bend but don't break defensive unit, which is something that he's run before. Like when they play cover 1 man, they're well off the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of cover 3, a lot of really deep cover 3. They're just keeping everything in front of them. I wonder if Michael Riley's going to have the patience to pick away down the field and find a way to get it into the end zone.
It's interesting that you say that, because we were talking about that today, because I know Rich Stubler's still there, correct?
Yep.
And Chris Jones, and I don't know Chris Jones as well as I know Stubes, but I know that they have a lot of the same philosophy. And we were talking about how you just described it right there. And really, Stubes has had that philosophy for a long time. I have to admit that in my era of watching this game, Rich Stubler has been, on the cutting edge of defense for a very, very, very long time. It seems like everywhere that he goes, they have good defense. And that's his philosophy. He basically is going to say, listen, I'm going to play good, solid defense, and I'm going to force you into making good decisions. And you're going to need to be patient. And when you mess up and you want to take a shot, I'm going to be there to make you pay for it. All those years, Stubes' defense, and I don't know as much about Chris's defenses, but they always gave up a ton of yards running. Right? Remember, they used to give a ton of yards rushing. But in the end, it never really mattered, because teams weren't willing to run the ball 25 or 30 times, right? And he knew that. Teams, when they got to 2nd and 5, they weren't going to take the chance of running the ball. They wanted to be able to throw it. And then when you did, he would rally his guys up and they'd come up and make a tackle. So I would think that Chris Jones is going to do the exact same thing. He's aggressive. He usually has a good defensive front 4. They're going to put pressure on the quarterback, and they're just going to, as you said, they're going to make you be patient and take what they give you. And if you screw up or make a mistake, they're going to be there to make you pay.
So switching sides here, looking at the Lions defense, and actually before we get right into that, I would love your opinion as a quarterback, looking at this, through the lens of McLeod Bethel-Thompson, who for the first time in his CFL career has been handed the keys. He is now the guy after the trade of Nick Arbuckle this week. What does this do for him? Does this increase the pressure, the nervousness? Is this a vote of confidence where you're going to go out there and really look to tear it up? How do you think this is playing with him?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think that's probably the way that he looks at it is, and he should look at it is, he's worked his ass off. to get where he is. And, he's paid his dues. And what he did is he came in and he capitalized on his opportunities, and he put the organization in a situation where they had to make a choice, and they chose him. So if I'm McLeod Bethel Thompson, I'm saying to myself, I'm giving myself a pat in the back and saying, good job. But now the part about now the expectation is that you got to go out there each and every snap and do it, right? There's not that kind of, I don't want to say safety net, but when you're in that kind of a battle, there's a guy kind of over your shoulder, and if things aren't going well, that they may throw him into the game. Now it's you. There is nobody else. So I'm sure, and I don't know much about him personally. I think he's got one of the great releases in this league. I love the way he spins the football because he can throw it. Is that I'm sure that he's probably seeing this as a huge confidence boost, and now that he can really kind of play, I think, a little bit freer in the sense that you don't have to look over your shoulder. That, hey, I've won this job. It's my job now. I can go out there and play. But the other part of that is there's a certain level of pressure that comes with that, right? Is that you've got to perform, and that he needs to do it on a consistent basis, week in and week out. So that's going to be now his barometer, is that level of consistency, and can he do it week in and week out? And I'm sure that with more and more experience, he's going to get better and better and better, because that's what he's proven over his career to this point, is that he's getting better and better understanding the game. And as I said, his physical skills are perfect for this league.
And when he goes to attack that BC Lions defense, when I watch the BC film, I don't actually see a lot of holes. You talked about all the young players. They're really good young players. They're not perfect. They are, they will let up plays. Mm-hmm. There are mistakes, but there aren't glaring weaknesses. How do you think Toronto's going to come out and try and attack this defense? Where do you think, where do teams try and beat this team up?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you could use the same philosophy that the BC Lions are going to try to use against Toronto. That I think that BC looks at and says, we're going to force, the Argos into being patient. And that's one of the things that Rick Campbell is going to do as a defensive coordinator, is that he's going to make you make throws. They're not going to give up very many big plays. They're going to play sound defense, and they're going to, again, make you hit the underneath and be patient, and they're going to bend and not break. That's one of the things. I think it was a couple of weeks ago against Calgary, they forced Calgary into 6 field goals, right? So, they're very stingy when it gets down to the red zone. But again, I think what they were able to do, like prior to this, like little slump that they've gone through, this not little slump, 3 games is a big slump, but is they need to be able to take away the ball. Like, they've been pretty good at taking away the ball. Like I think they're second in the league in interceptions. And then they were up there in giveaway takeaway. I think they were plus 11. I think they probably have come down a little bit after the Winnipeg game, but they're still, I think, in the top 2 or 3 in the league in the giveaway takeaway. So, they're sound, and they're young, and as you said, they're going to make mistakes here and there, but for the most part, they're going to give you 60 minutes, and if you're going to win, you're going to earn it.
And my last question for you, Giulio, is if the BC Lions win this game, what do you think will have happened?
Well, I think that if they win this game, I think they're gonna have good first down success, and that's something that has really, really hampered this team. Is they have left themselves, because their running game hasn't been very good and consistent, is they've left themselves too often in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8 scenarios. And against like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and against like the likes of Calgary, well, when you leave yourself in those scenarios and those defensive lines know exactly what you're going to do, it makes for a long night, especially against that Blue Bomber defensive line. So if they're going to win, they got to be good on first down, where they can put themselves in a situation where that 2nd and medium, if you hit the hitch or hit the slant, you're moving the sticks, right? And you're keeping yourself on the field. And capitalizing on mistakes. I don't think Stoops' defense or Jones' defense is going to make very many mistakes. They're going to make you be patient. So I think, to answer your question, that if they do win this game, at the end of it, you'll have to say that they played a very patient game and capitalized on their opportunities.
Giulio, I really appreciate you going through all of this with us today. I know how insane your schedule is, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk some football with us today.
Hey, anytime, buddy. Anytime. I'm looking forward to coming home. I'm going to be heading out to Etobicoke so my mama can cook me some nice fresh pasta and meatballs. So, I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. And anytime you need me, just give me a call.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That will just about do it for us on this edition of the X's and Argos Scouting Report. For Giulio Caravatta, this is Ben Grant saying so long, and may all your pre-snap reads be good ones. I'll see ya.